Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Labor Day. Labor Day 2023. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Political Spotlight. I am your host, Kristopher H. Bilbrey. It is great to be here on a Sunday evening. It is a wonderful Sunday. It's been a beautiful day. It's been a little warm, but hey, that's okay for the unofficial last weekend of summer. It's been a good weekend to be out at the pool, swimming, doing a little bit of cooking out, hanging out with family and friends. I hope you're out there playing safe, playing hard, but playing safe. Remember, if you're out there in the wild drinking, do not be driving. Or, depending on where you are, you might run into our guest this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking to a guest here in just a few moments that is a very long-awaited guest here, somebody that a lot of you have wanted to hear from for quite some time now. This is going to be a fantastic show. I ask anybody that is here, remember, number one, if you or anyone you know live, works, plays, or drives through Henry County, this is going to be a show that you or they want to watch. If you're going to watch it now, watch it live. That's the best way to watch it. Watch it on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, we're going to ask that you do one of these things over here. Like the show by hitting the thumb. If you have not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. Remember, we are longtime broadcasters starting all the way over. Our channel was decimated, and we are now starting over from scratch. And you guys are now on the ground floor level of helping to build back this amazing empire, the Lighthouse Empire here. So please, please, please subscribe. Tell your friends and family to subscribe as well. Spread the word. Share the show with everyone you know. Hit the bell in the center so you stay up to date when we release content. Of course, majority of you know that we are live 5 nights a week, Sunday through Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Sunday through Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. However, we also release shorts and we release a lot of other content throughout the week. We're going to start releasing a lot more static videos when Brando gets back from his super secret top mission, we're going to start our Plan B, our amazing new material release, and I think you guys are going to love it, so you're going to want to stick around for that, but help spread the word. But specifically, even if somebody never watches another show again, tonight's going to be the show that people are going to want to watch if they live, work, or play or drive through Henry County, specifically if they vote in Henry County, because tonight we're going to be, again, one more show talking about the horror that has been the Henry County Sheriff, Mr. John M. Sproles, a gentleman, ladies and gentlemen, that I warned you about way back last year when he was running for office. I told you that he would be detrimental to law enforcement in Henry County, and he would cause problems within the Henry County law enforcement community, and he has done that. I told you that those problems would then roll downhill towards the citizens. That has happened. I honestly, when I said it, didn't think that it would happen within the first 6 or 7 months. I thought it might be a couple of years, but he apparently is an overachiever. So we're going to be talking with Officer Roger Humphries of the Shirley Police Department. Officer Humphries is, we're going to let him give us the background, but he's not new to law enforcement. unlike the counterpart that we're going to be talking about. And I want to say for the record here, obviously, Officer Humphries is a police officer. So it's not like we're going to be all into the whole cop bashing thing. We're not doing that. And, honestly, I don't think that he specifically has major crazy issues with the sheriff, but I don't think that he probably wishes that he wasn't in this position to begin with. We'll talk with him about that, but this is something that needs to get out. People need to be aware of this, and it's important to hear his side. We saw the body camera footage. We heard of the incident. We saw the body camera footage. We have talked with the owner of the bus and the owner of the dance studio, Mr. Roger Winston. And then we heard from the sheriff himself in a phone call to Officer Humphries, chief and town board member, president. And then we've heard from the emails that came directly from the mind of Sheriff Sproles. So tonight, without further ado, we're going to be hearing from Officer Humphries, and I will follow through with my promise. After tonight's episode, I will reach out to Henry County Sheriff John Sproles and find out if he's interested in coming on. Sproles, if you're in the audience, which a lot of people seem to think that you probably are, I think that you probably are myself, please think about that, consider it, mull it over. I would definitely like to have you on. We've had you on before, even when we've been adversarial. So, in the next couple days, next week, whatever, if you're interested in coming on, we'll make that happen. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Officer Roger Humphries. Hello, sir.
How you doing?
All right. How about yourself?
I am doing wonderful.
So first and foremost, thank you for coming on and talking with us this evening. I know that this isn't like the best topic in the world to be talking about, but I definitely appreciate you coming on and talking with us.
My pleasure.
So why don't we just start off with you telling us just, a little bit about yourself, who you are, how long you've been in law enforcement, why you're in law enforcement.
Well, I started in law enforcement in Columbus, Ohio. I grew up in Dayton. I was in the Air Force and was medically retired. And so when I came back, I started working with troubled youth and decided that in order to, make a difference, I thought maybe I'll get into law enforcement. I thought maybe I would, work with juveniles, but it didn't work out that way. So I started out working with Pickerington Police Department, which is a suburb of Columbus. I was a motorcycle officer there, and I was there for 7 years. And I went to move to here in Indianapolis and worked with the Veteran Affairs Federal Police and worked with them for just about 10 years. And I was the training major. So I was in charge of training them with weapons, rifles, ground fighting, SWAT, stuff like that. So, and then left there, and now I'm working with Barron County Parole, which is probably the most fulfilling out of my entire law enforcement career.
Really?
Yes, sir.
That's interesting. How long have you been in the parole setting?
Just over 2 years.
Okay. All right.
So and just recently, December 27th is when I started with Shirley as a reserve officer.
December 27th, December of 2022.
Last year, yes.
Okay, so you've not been on a year, but you're coming up on your year.
Yes.
And I want to say that from everything that I've heard, this has happened multiple times. So I don't understand. Maybe his sources aren't as good as mine, but it's happened multiple times where the sheriff of Henry County has said, I've talked to so-and-so from somebody's past and they've had bad things to say. And from anybody that I've ever talked to about you has had nothing but good things to say. your current chief. Your current chief has a lot of good things to say about you. The town council seems to have a lot of good things to say about you. And so that's a good thing. Before we get into the big kickoff of the whole crux of the show, coming from a law enforcement perspective, parole's a little bit different. Diane's got a good question here. What about the aspect of the parole job that you enjoy so much as opposed to the other aspect of the career? I think I know what you're going to say, but I'm interested to see what you're going to say.
Well, I have an opportunity, and the other agents have an opportunity to actually make a difference. A lot of parolees have been in a long time because they made a bad decision when they were teenagers, 17, 18, 19 years old. And when they get out, they're almost like, a 5-year-old who's going to kindergarten for the first time. They're scared to death. They don't know where to start. In some instances, all their family's gone, or they've written them off. And to be able to set them on the right path and help them, because there's so many resources now, and to help them get a job, to help them find housing, and to encourage them. I always tell people when I first started, I really wasn't sure how I was going to be because I'm kind of older. I just turned 60. So okay. I'm kind of older, set in my ways. I'm like, oh Lord, how am I going to be? And I had a 53-year-old man who was, he was in for murder, spent many years. I think he was 53 when he got out, and I'm helping him out with his insurance, his food stamps, and he had a place to stay. And we were trying to make sure he got a job. A week out, he was able to get a employment. And he says, hey, you know what? I got employment already. And I said, that is amazing. I said, man, I am so proud of you. And that man started crying.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh man, he's testing my gangster. I can't cry.
Right.
I gotta. And it was that point where I looked up and said, Lord, now I understand why I'm here. And so I look forward every day to help someone to change their mindset of crime, because some people don't know any better. When you go into their homes, you kind of say, I understand. And so to be able to talk to the younger men and let them know that there's a better way. I've been through things in my life where I've had to start over.
Sure.
And so I kind of know what it means to have to, pick up the pieces and start over. So everything that I've gone over in my entire life, I've been able to use now to hopefully make a difference.
Absolutely. That's really awesome. So a couple things. First and foremost, I do want to let the audience know and let you know that the man with the plan, the man with the bus, and the dance crew is here. Toxic Crew Elite Force. I'm glad to see that Mr. Winston was able to see that we were on. So he is he's in the audience and watching. So hello there. And also, just briefly, we have found out that you. I think that we found out that what we've been told about you has been right. You are a liar. Someone's telling us there's no way you're 60.
I am. I feel
it. Right. Well, you're doing pretty damn good for 60. So that's pretty cool. So, well, I like that. I like your story. That's very interesting. And, people don't realize, a lot of times law enforcement, this side, being the police officer side of things, is really reactionary. Mm-hmm. A lot of things are reactionary to what's happening when people are having their worst day, when they're in their worst, and you're at a situation and dealing with people when, nothing is good. And so, being able to be in a law enforcement role where, from time to time, you still got to be the heavy and, whatever, you can still touch lives and really feel like you're making a difference. That's really good. So, so you've been on Shirley Police Department for a while, obviously. So that means, your full-time gig is the parole. You're on as a reserve. but it doesn't mean a lot of people hear the term reserve and immediately they're like, oh no, that, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And there are times when reserves can be the new officers that are, you get a couple different types of reserves. You get the people that are wanting to really make a go of it in law enforcement. So they're trying to suck in all of the training and all of the experience they can. You get people that are just wanting to be jokesters and have a badge in their pocket and wanting to do it for girls or free for the free food or, just for the perks, get out of jail free card type stuff. And it's pretty easy to quickly determine who is, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so I think that's the situation. And it's always really interesting to me when you get somebody that come on as a reserve and then they're full time, and then they're like a higher up, they're a chief of a department, or they're a sheriff, or maybe they're a captain or lieutenant, and they just always denigrate and hate on the reserves. And it's kind of like the sheriff we're speaking about tonight. He started as a reserve, some 20 years ago, did a year or so as a reserve, and then got out of it, and then went on about life, and then got back into it. But it's just kind of interesting to me how much hate reserves get. It's like volunteer fire departments. People don't realize wherever you're watching this from, chances are like 95% of America is handled with volunteer firemen. So if your house is burning down or you're in a car wreck or there's a cardiac arrest, it's volunteers coming to your aid. And just because someone is doing it in a quote unquote volunteer status doesn't mean they don't know anything, doesn't mean they're not good at what they do. So, you've obviously had experience in law enforcement and been in law enforcement prior to this. So it's not like you're just a newbie that doesn't know what's going on. So let me just ask you, throughout the years, how many assist motorists have you done, ballpark?
Oh, wow. Especially in Ohio, I've got about 7 years. It's too many to count.
Sure. I mean,
because it was just anything from pushing cars.
Yeah.
There were some times where I dig cars out. I changed tires because AAA was going to take too long and it was too hot. It's been hundreds, thousands.
Right. Absolutely. So, pulling up behind a bus or a van or a truck or a car or something that's on the side of the road, it's, in that kind of condition, obviously you still got to be on your game, and, you never know what to expect. Car stops, side of the road, officer interactions. I'm a former law enforcement officer, so, I'm aware it's very, it can be hairy. You never know what you're going to walk up on. You could have very easily walked up on someone who just killed somebody in that bus. You know what I mean?
Right.
It didn't necessarily have to be a dance crew from Milwaukee. It could have been anybody in that bus. But, one of the things that we'll get into, the sheriff was really mad. He didn't think that you had done any investigative work, but, you use your eyes, you use your senses, and you walk up and the bus is painted crazy, black, purple, green colors. You walk up, the people on the bus are wearing uniforms that are black, green, things are starting to match. You walk up and you see the trophies on the bus. And so if you can, I guess, tell us about that day. What happened before the bus? What were you doing? Because you were a little bit out of Shirley. So what was going on?
So when I started my shift, and I went to do some vehicle maintenance, and when I passed the bus, I noticed it, and I'm like, okay. And so I was going to go, and I went and took care of the car, had it washed and cleaned it out. And when I came back, I noticed two gentlemen walking across. They had crossed 109 and headed to the truck repair. Like there's a big semi behind Love's. And you could tell those batteries were heavy because they were they were about to fall over. And so I pulled over and I was like, hey, what's going on? And it's like, we think our batteries have died or something's going on and we're going to get them charged up. I'm like, oh, so that's your bus? And they said, yeah. I'm like, okay, great. I said, hey, look, put them in the back and I'll meet you over there, because our truck is it's only for 2-seater. It's for a K9. So I only had room for one. I'm like, I'll meet you all over there. So they came in, met them over there. They took their batteries out. And I told them, I said, if you have any issues, I'm Officer Humphries. You can call the Shirley dispatch, and, I'll be more than happy to help you out. And that was it. I, came back through and met with them again. And it was then they told me, it's like, hey, it's not the batteries. I think we put in the wrong gas. I'm like, oh man. I'm like, okay, so what are you guys going to do? Because, they're telling me, hey, we're trying to get back to Milwaukee. And I'm thinking, okay. So I said, well, they had a contact of a bishop and his wife from a church in India that they were talking to, trying to figure out what they're going to do, see if they had enough money. And I said, okay, you guys got that taken care of? Because yeah, we're going to, try to see what we can do. And I went ahead and cleared. I had gotten gas in Shirley, and I heard over the radio that, hey, I got a call that then some people were throwing trash out the bus on 109. And I'm like, is he talking about the same bus? I'm like, oh man, he's talking about them. I was like, okay, well, let me go over here and talk with them. And I radioed to my dispatch. I said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and head over to the bus, and I'll deal with the trash issue. And so I go over there.
Real quick, let me stop you here for 1 second, if I can,
Mm-hmm.
so people understand what's going on. Are you saying that you have a small town dispatch, or are you talking about the dispatch for Hancock County?
It was for us. And so we scan, most of us scan so we can hear other, and I was just under the impression that they scan too, so that, that everybody scans so they can hear everyone's, traffic. So
when you're calling in on a traffic stop, or you're getting out on this bus, who are you talking to?
I'm talking to Shirley Hancock.
Okay. So it's Hancock, because and the reason I ask this is for folks that don't know, Shirley is a town that sits right on the line. Your town is split up. Part of it is in Henry, part of it is in Hancock.
Yes.
But I think you guys developed some kind of plan where everything you basically do goes through Hancock County, and if there's something that goes on, then they notify Henry. But you do scan, so you hear a little bit of everything.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you primarily are going through, Shirley and Hancock, but then you heard someone, you didn't know who it was,
right,
was talking about this bus that was on 109, and also for the record, 109 is a state road, and if you're just out in the middle of nowhere and there's cars flying by, that's kind of a crazy area. But where you were, I mean, it's a dangerous place to be, but it's not like you're on 70. Also, you're right there by the entrance to a bunch of different places. So vehicles are slowing down as they're coming through there. It's not like they're going 70 miles an hour. You're 200 feet from the interstate where people are merging and turning. So honestly, they're in the best place they could have been.
Yes.
To been broke down. It wasn't like this was some kind of major ordeal that you needed to get that out of there straight away. Like, you were cool letting it be some time to see what they could do.
Right. If they were, in the roadway, I would have stayed and turned my lights on and like, okay, we need to try to do something about getting this bus, off the road. So, when I got there, I saw the trash. It looked like it was maybe one bag from Burger King. No, it was from McDonald's. And I got out and I got on the bus and I said, hey, you guys can't throw trash off the bus. I said, you guys need to get the bus. I'm like, you guys been walking, back and forth across the street. You couldn't put it in the trash can. So Roger's like, get out here and get this trash. Right. And so they get out and they pick up the trash. It really wasn't that much. And you can tell because it had been raining. And so, the old trash and the new trash because it was dry. Sure. So I was like, all right, guys. I says, and I asked Roger, how are things going? Are you, he goes, yeah, we're trying to figure things out. That he had spent money on gas cans, and a pump to try to get some of that gas out of there, out of the tank, and then they were going to, hopefully try to put some, the right kind of gas in there to get going. And I was like, okay. I said, all right, make sure you guys are being careful going across the street. It's 109. It's busy. And I said, if you need, I'll be back to check on you later. So I go back to my vehicle, and that's when I heard on the radio, there's a Shirley officer behind the bus, so I'll be out with them. And so I'm like, where's that coming from? And then I saw the vehicle and turned his lights on and waited till cars went by, and he came in, pulled in behind me. So I don't know why he keeps saying I was at the bus when he showed up, because I was at my vehicle because I was getting ready to leave. And so he gets out and he's in plain clothes. And I'm thinking, okay. And I was getting ready to, say, hey, I'm Officer Humphries. And he just walked right by me and goes, what's going on? What's all this trash doing out here? And so I was kind of stunned. Right. I was sort of like, okay, wait a minute. Did he just walk by me like, and I'm like, okay, just keep your composure. It's going to be fine. He walks up and he's just going in on these people. And if you can see, like on my cam, when I'm walking back and forth, you can see there's no trash out there.
Yeah, right.
So he's going off, what's all this trash doing out here? And I'm sitting there looking at him, and I'm looking at the people because I'm trying to judge them, and you can tell they're looking at me like, what is this? What's going on? So now they're kind of scared. What's going on? So two other deputies show up, and he's just going on, and he's makes a statement. He was telling Roger was saying, hey, I drive this bus all over the United States, and so he kind of looks down at me, because he's kind of tall, I'm short, and he goes, this bus doesn't like it could go, anywhere. And I looked at him, I was like, why would you say that? Right. And I said, they're here because they put the wrong gas in. What are you talking about? No, where I'm from, okay, you have cars. I grew up in Dayton. You have a car that can look beat up. You see them on the highway all the time. And they're just bebopping down the road. Oh, yeah. And the very first comment is, look at that. I bet you that thing runs better than a 2023. It's more reliable, and that's why they're still driving it. So you can't sit here and make the comment that just because it's not a charter bus, from, the suburbs, that the vehicle can't go anywhere. They apparently made it to Ohio.
Sure.
So, and so I think, he kind of looked at me because I, for some reason, maybe he thought that I was just going to agree with him. I'm like, no, I'm not going to agree with you.
Right.
Because you've already shown me that I'm insignificant. So don't ask me my opinion.
Right.
So he kept going on and going on for him. And I'm thinking to myself, what is he, what's he doing? And then he starts talking about, you haven't asked anything. These kids could be trafficked. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me.
Well, and that's let me back you up there just a second. So first of all, can you tell me, was he alone in the vehicle, or did he have his family with him? Okay.
That I could see, he was by himself. I didn't.
Okay. That's something I was not sure about, because the story is that he was coming home from church. Mm-hmm. So in my opinion, I'm thinking, coming home from church, did he do this with his family in the car? Like, that's a weird thing, first of all. Yeah. But okay, so they weren't in the car. That's that, or not that you could tell. So that's that. How soon between him getting there and his deputies getting there? Do you know what kind of time frame? I think his deputies got there maybe about maybe 7 to 10 minutes after he got there. Okay, so there was a good period of time.
Yeah,
that he was out there.
He had time to go ahead and start berating everybody and talking and yelling at people. And I'm just kind of looking at him, and so now I'm I've gone into a mode of, okay, I think I need to, start, watching out for these kids. And I went in more of a protective mode. Because at this point, you still didn't know who this man was. Didn't know who he was. Okay. So, and when he starts talking about trafficking, I'm thinking, okay, wait a minute. These kids have been getting off the bus by themselves. They have been walking across the street getting food by themselves. No adult was walking with them. They weren't sitting there like they were afraid. They were talking freely and walking freely. There's nothing that said anything about trafficking.
Right.
Okay. Those kids would not be sitting there being trafficked and not said anything. Well, yeah. Because as soon as he got on the bus, he was like, yeah, we won. Same thing with me. When I get on the bus, it's like, they got these big trophies because they came from Trotwood. And I used to be a volunteer firefighter and paramedic for Trotwood when I lived in Dayton, when I came back from the Air Force. So I knew exactly where they were.
Sure.
So I'm sitting there thinking, you got to be crazy. So that's when I asked them, I went, who is he? He goes, that's our sheriff. And I looked at him like, you're kidding me. Now I had gotten, you can see on there, I got my phone out and I'm texting. I'm trying to get a hold of my sergeant. It went to voicemail. And then I think I texted my assistant chief or called him and said, look, explain the situation. I go, there's a guy here. And I was like, he's a total, you know what? And I'm just letting you know, if something happens, I'm giving you a heads up on why.
Right.
And so once I did find out who it was, I texted my AC and said, it's the sheriff of Henry County. He goes, okay. He goes, don't worry about it. I was like, fine. So now when he starts talking about, trafficking, and I want you to get everyone's parents on FaceTime so we can verify. Well, now it's time for me to go ahead and start following him, because as a law enforcement, my job is to protect the public.
Sure.
I don't care who it's from.
Sure.
I'm going to protect them from, the bad guy. And if I need to protect them from another person in uniform, then that's what I'm going to do. I believe strongly in the thin blue line, but I don't follow the thin blue line when it's going south.
Absolutely. That's the thing, is the fact that, that's what I titled the episode, common decency versus a thin blue line, because obviously you're a police officer. So, the brotherhood matters to you or whatnot, but, it doesn't trump common decency and being a normal human being.
Right.
And so
the gentleman on there asked, why didn't you tell him to stand down? Well, I'm trying to make sure I don't disgrace my chief, and I don't want to make Shirley look bad. And he is the sheriff. It is his jurisdiction. So I'm going to, try my best to remain professional, because I don't want him to take it out on them, because he wasn't going to be able to take it out on me.
Right.
So I didn't want him to take it out on the people that were on the bus.
Sure.
So I did the best that I could. And I figured I'm just going to remain quiet. I'm going to follow with my cam, and anything, that may happen or something, at least I have something to back me up if I did have to tell him to stand down or if something else happened.
Let me ask you this. There's two questions I want to ask. First, what called him back? Do you remember? There was a point where it looked like he was leaving. You said, I'm going to stay here with him. And he's like, okay, we're out of here. He kind of said something shitty to you. And then he's like, we're out of here. And then he was walking, and then he came back. What called him back?
I have no idea. The only thing that I could think of is he just wanted to just let me know that he was a sheriff and let me know how stupid I was.
Right. Okay. So that's that. And, I mean, people on here are going to be pissy with me when I say this, but when this first came into me, this information came into me, and I contacted your chief and asked about I was letting him know that I was sending in a records request. Mm-hmm. He right up front, he said, hey, I just want to let you know, yeah, we're going to help you. We'll send this to you. No problem. We'll get this to you. I just want to let you know that the officer did turn off the body camera a couple times. Mm-hmm. And, we've talked to him about that. And I'm like, you're making too big a deal about that. Because, look, obviously, yeah, it's good to have it on the whole time. Let me ask you a question. And I think I know why, but was it the reasoning that you were turning your body camera off when you were talking to when I say it's children on the bus? Was it the fact that they were children on the bus that you were talking to? Is that the reason that you were turning it off?
It was twofold.
Okay.
Part of the reason, a small reason, was that. The bigger reason was I turned it off because, again, with me being older, and I've come up, and been around my grandfather when people have done and said things. And I turned it off and I said, listen, I said, kids, you have to understand something. You are in a small area, a small town, Henry County. You don't know what the people are like. You don't know what law enforcement's like. You can't draw attention to yourself.
Yes.
And I says, and throwing trash out the window has brought the attention that I did not want you to bring to yourselves by being harassed by small town or locals, just in case they were the type of people who, would give you a hard time because of your color,
sure,
because of your bus, because, you're not in a chartered bus, and so it was, for me, it's like, look, kids, you need to understand, you just can't go through life and doing whatever you want, wherever you want.
Right.
Because even though it's 2023, unfortunately, you have to be careful of what you do and where you do it.
Oh.
And I told them, so now you understand and now you see what can happen when you think you can just do anything you want to do. And so, and Roger was like, and so that's why I stayed there. I was there and my shift ended at 3. I didn't leave there until about 6:30. Okay. And I wasn't going to leave them unprotected.
Yeah. What that's I definitely understand that, and that makes sense to me. And it's interesting that Sproles is like, he was doing exactly backwards. What you would do is you would turn your camera off when you're talking to the law enforcement, you turn it on when you're talking to the bad guys, to the people, those people, that kind of behavior is like, nah, if you, I want to hear specifically when the cops are talking, because I want to know what they're plotting. So I'm not a fan of that. I just thought that was very telling. Not to mention the fact that literally just like Friday, his department got body cameras. Mm-hmm. They did not have body cameras. He didn't have a body camera on. His deputies didn't have body cameras on. I don't think that they had car cameras. So I think it's very interesting for him to have any kind of concern about that when they certainly weren't doing anything with body cameras. But so he makes a mention in one of his emails that you said something to the effect of, this is exactly what I was wanting to avoid. And I think you just answered it there.
Yes. What
you were wanting to avoid, because while you said it's 2023 in the world, I very much believe it's like 1950 in Henry County. Mm-hmm. And so you were wanting to avoid the sense of, someone from law enforcement coming and, belittling these people that were on the bus, or, kicking them or down or whatever because of, whatever reason, their race or the bus, or them being like the Rambo effect, not being from there and in a small town, that mm-hmm. kind of thing. So I figured that's what you were trying to avoid. So at whatever point you guys kind of like get away from them, they're getting back on the bus and doing their thing, and you guys are now walking back. Did he call you back, or did you guys just kind of meet back there? What happened?
He came to the bus and he goes, "Can I speak to you for a second?" And I said, "Sure." And I thought to myself, this is going to be good. And so when he went back, and I turned on my camera. I'm like, yeah, because I got a feeling he's going to say something. It's going to tick me off. And, again, I wanted to make sure, because at this point, in my eyes, he has made himself the bad guy, because sure. He's in my eyes and in my time in law enforcement. Now you're suspect. You're suspect because you're treating these people like, they're the scum of the earth, and you're talking to them like they're the scum of the earth. And I mean, I didn't understand why. And then he, going on to tell me I haven't done this, I haven't done that. And I'm like, Those people have been there since 1 o'clock in the morning. Had he had asked me and stopped, he would have known. I knew that Roger didn't have a chauffeurs or his CDL, but in that state, it's not required if it's not a commercial vehicle.
Right.
So, between looking at the totality of the circumstances, there's at the Federal Academy, there's an instructor that always says, and I'll never forget it, your world, your reality.
Yes.
My world is these people are stranded. This is a young man that is taking kids and showing them the world. Maybe some of these kids may not have been able to go out of, Milwaukee, sure, other than getting on that bus. And, he's doing and getting by with what he can. He has a bus. They painted the bus and matched their uniform. They had the trophies. They were talking to me. No one said, hey, tried to slip me a note saying we're being trafficked.
Right.
And it's just, since they were my people, I would have thought he would have stopped and asked me.
Sure.
But he didn't.
Right.
So, I didn't know him from Adam. So it's kind of funny that, I would try to set him up if I didn't know who he was.
Right.
And no one told you to say the things that you said. Okay. My hand wasn't working your mouth, and I wasn't a ventriloquist telling you to be, mean to these people and to be, and talk down to them. So, I don't have anything to hide. Yes. My chief made sure that I never turned that camera off. And I've had my backside chewed out many a day in the military, and he brought back memories. So, and I explained to him, and he understood, but I also understand, that I did break the policy, and
sure,
and I will always own up to it. And I explained why it doesn't make it right, but I did have a reason, but it still has nothing to do with how he acted and how he treated those people, and then how he thought that he would talk to me.
Sure, absolutely. And I'll tell you, I just, because again, I'm not sure if you knew at the time or not how long he had on the department or not. At that time, again, you didn't really know who he was. So
No.
I would assume you didn't know how long he had been sheriff or not been sheriff, or,
No idea.
You're not from Henry County. So it's not like you're someone following the politics there so much, but at that time, hell, he'd only been sheriff for 6 months, and he'd only been in law enforcement for 3.5 years. So it's like when you said, and I knew the moment that you said how long you had been on, I knew you burnt his ass. I knew he was going to, because he is going to think it don't matter what you truly know. He's going to think you know about him, and you're taking a shot at him, and he's going to get you back for that. And he did bring that back up, how much time, you have all this time on, yada, yada, yada. And it's just, I'll tell you, in your time in law enforcement, I would assume you've been around a lot of new guys, the FNGs, the people coming on the department, and the noobs that have that, die hard. They're ready to go, and they're ready to get into it, and they're ready to go out and yell, and they're going to pull over their mother and all of this. And I tell you, just my opinion, he's still got a lot of that's not been like worked out of him yet. And it's just like, man, you're in the worst position in the world that you could be in and still have some of those tendencies. And it's really, really insane. Some of the stuff that he was just saying to you out there. And so I was glad that you held your own. Two of the absolutely, I love that Roger Winston said, the comment when he says, we're smart enough to walk kids across the street. He just thought, dude, that is the best comment from this entire video. because that was finally like him letting him know, like, all right, dude, enough. Like, we're not idiots. We know what's, we can figure it out here,
Right.
And so I really like that. And I'm glad that you held your own. After that event, they leave and you stay there. All of that stuff happens. They decide to leave. Did you think that, I mean, did you think it was done? Did you think, oh shit, this is going to be something I'm going to be dealing with? This is going to be a problem? Or, where was your mind at?
My mind was like, well, he's probably going to call my chief, and my chief's going to, I was thinking, I can't wait to get back to download this camera.
Right.
So that they could see it the next day. I wasn't worried about it.
Yeah.
I just figured, he'd complain about it because I didn't, just take his side and follow his lead. I'm too old for that. I'm not going to follow anybody that's going in the wrong direction. And so that was it. And here we are.
So you did all that. You go through the, like you said, you go through the deal of having, your chief saying, okay, keep your body camera on, all that stuff. Did you know that Roger Winston had the issue the next day when they came back?
I didn't know everything that took place. The bishop and his wife called me the day they were trying to pick their bus up to let me know that the license plate was missing. Yeah. And I says, what? And they said the license plate were missing. I'm like, no, that license plate was on there.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
And I look at, now I've got ADHD and I got a little bit of OCD.
Yeah.
And I look at little small things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I don't recall that license plate hanging off.
Right.
So
yeah.
I don't know what the deal is. And I told them, and they're like, what are we going to do? I said, I don't know. I said, probably the best thing to do is, since they did have a chase car, look, get on the highway and get out. Yes. Get out of that town, have someone following you.
Get the hell out of there.
If you get pulled over, let them know what was going on. Because, calling Henry County is not going to help.
Yeah, right.
Because, and I was like, if you want to call and file a complaint, or at least put it on record with Hancock County, you should, you can do that. I said, but for the most part, just get home, go out there and get out there and go home.
Right. And yeah, that's exactly the same thing I would have directed them to do too. That's just, so they get home, and then let's see. So that's June 11th. So do you know when your town board meetings are? A month? Are they the first of the month, or are they the end of the month?
I can't remember. I'm not sure. I haven't been there long enough to.
Okay, I think
know
they're
the schedule.
the first of the month. So
I think it's towards the beginning of the month.
Okay, so because what happens is, completely on his own, and nothing else happening. There was no stink raised about this. Nothing was going on. The sheriff then proceeds to send some of the craziest emails that I've ever read from one professional to another in this situation. Just long, rambling, really just questionable, like in what's going through his mind in this process. And just to hear some of the things that he said, that that this was clearly a setup, and that he was, you were on the bus conjuring with these people. I mean, I don't know if he's using words that he didn't mean to be using or whatever, but there were 30 some people on the bus. 5 or 6 of them were adults, and you can see in the body camera the 5 or 6 of them are outside the bus. That means the majority of the people on the bus were kids. And so when you're on the bus and he's saying, like, I was watching him while he's on the bus and he's talking to these people, making a plan, I'm like, so what in the hell? He's he's on there conjuring with these kids that you had made this pact with these kids from Milwaukee to set up this white cop from Henry County. Just absolutely seems insane to me. And these are words that he's saying in the email that's just really, really, really crazy. And I just don't understand that. So when you find out about these emails, what happens for you then?
Now I start thinking, I'm like, okay, so now you're going onto my social media, which is kind of concerning for me.
Yeah.
Because my wife is, pictures are on there. And you call my former employers and I've been, let go. So I haven't updated anything on my LinkedIn since I started with the state. That was like the last thing I ever done. But he said I recently updated it. So that was a lie.
Okay.
And then he said he was fired from the VA, which no, that's not true. And then the only other place that I was fired from, which isn't true. When I was at Pickerington, I was there 7 years, and all 7 years I had the highest evaluation score out of the department. And I left because I had gotten married at that time, and her job had moved her here.
Right.
So that's why I left Ohio. So, so there's that. So now you're stalking me. And I'm not worried about me. I've been in, 3 combat tours.
Sure.
I ain't worried about him, but I do worry about my wife when she's, if I'm not home, because if you're going to go and stalk my internet for whatever reason, I hadn't said anything. I hadn't complained. I had gone on about my life.
Yeah.
And for some reason, he just couldn't let go. And like, what is it you can't let go? You couldn't let go because someone didn't bend over and kiss your backside.
Yeah.
You're not letting go because someone talked back to you. This white beard here should have been an inclination that you can't talk to me like I'm your dog, your wife, or your kids.
Right.
It ain't going to happen.
Right.
So I, I just, I was just in awe that he would continue to take it this far, because, I don't appreciate, lying to the people who hired me. So there's that. And, that's an issue. To do all that, and you're supposed to be the sheriff. It's almost like you're trying to discredit me to cover up what you did.
That's absolutely.
Because if you didn't think you did anything wrong, why are we still talking about this?
Right.
And the one thing that really gets me out of all that posturing and all that stuff he did, not once did he ask anybody, is there anything I can do to help you all?
I mean, obviously I didn't see everything he did there, but everything on the body cam footage, that's the one thing that I noticed is he's talking about to your chief, and he's talking about to anyone that will talk to him about this, that you weren't there, you weren't doing your investigative job, you weren't doing this. And I'm thinking, there's times that you get out and you get into the Columbo routine, and then there's times where you're just like, this is what it is. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, and sometimes a broke down bus on the way to Milwaukee is a broke down bus on the way to Milwaukee. I mean, like, I don't think that you need to turn everything into a federal case, but it seems like Sproles has a real hard time not doing that, honestly.
Right.
It's very strange to me. So, like you said, you weren't posting about this. I hadn't found out about this yet. I hadn't talked about it. To my knowledge, no one else had. I don't know. I don't think that the dance crew people had yet. So this was just the only one that was still kicking on this was Sproles, and he was like going real hardcore about it. And what's interesting to me about that is around this time, he started having a battle with small town departments. Surely some other departments. Now he's saying you guys aren't involved with that, but I have another theory on that. That's for another show. But I'll say that one of the things that I've noticed is a pattern for him is when he's doing what he's been doing here. He has said multiple times that he will get on to social media. He checks these people's information. He finds out where you live. And he has multiple times said that he has either map quested from like the police department to the home address, or from the sheriff's department to the home address, or in some cases, I think he's even went to the location and drove, and he's talked about doing these things. And to me, he's really crossing lines when doing that. I mean, look, when you're a public official, everybody in Henry County knows where Sproles lives. If they don't, they could easily find it. Cops, I was always weird about that. You don't want people to know where you live or whatever, and you do this or that. But I mean, in today's day and age, it's pretty hard to keep yourself hidden. You know what I mean? Right. People are going to know where you are. But when you have someone that has this level of a problem with you, that's going through the steps to find out where you live and to map quest your address and all of this shit, it's really weird. And it's really concerning. And it's like, if it just felt like he kept taking it up to the next level. And so the emails apparently didn't get him what he wanted.
Right.
And then did you actually ever read the emails?
Yes.
Okay. So you saw those. So then what happened was, so going in chronological order, the emails he sent were like the 28th, 29th, 30th of June into like the 1st, 2nd, 3rd. I think the meeting in July was somewhere around the 3rd, the 5th, because obviously the holiday's on the 4th, somewhere around in there. But then on Thursday, the 6th of July, he calls a meeting on this other issue, and all of the town board people from all of the small towns goes to the sheriff's department. Myself and a colleague, we go, and I videotape this meeting, and it's a very weird meeting. And while I'm there and doing that, I become aware of an incident that occurred at the jail that day, where the sheriff was involved with a use of force issue, where he shot an unarmed black inmate who was in a jail cell, kicking a door, but he wasn't, there was no other inmates, no other jailers around. He couldn't have hurt anybody except for himself. He was mule kicking the door, so he could have got tired, but I don't really think he could have even hurt himself. But then the sheriff ends up shooting him point blank with less lethal rifles 4 times, and making just really obscene yelling noises. And, he's kind of matching the inmates yelling, and they're kind of trading, things back and forth. And he was way out of line with that. And I broke that story. And then because of that, and because of what was going on, someone had contacted me, an unknown source contacted me and told me about this incident, which had happened earlier. Mm-hmm. So I knew about the bus incident. I got the bus incident. We talked about it. We released the footage. Then because of that, the sheriff got pissy with me and was probably then still mad at you. I know he was mad at Brian, your chief. I know he was mad at the town board because he felt they shouldn't have released the body camera footage to me. And then when he found out that I was having Roger Winston on, he was really upset. And it's like he almost started taking crap out on Roger Winston because he wanted to hear what he had to say. And, at that time, he's making comments about wanting to find out all about what this kid's about, which he makes those comments in another email closer. So he was watching all of that. That's why I know he's probably watching this. But after that, then he makes a phone call. When did you become aware? Were you aware of the phone call?
I was told about the phone call. I didn't, hear phone call until your show, and then I was able to hear everything going on.
And so, what were your thoughts about the phone call?
When the person just keeps repeating themselves, it's kind of a sign that you really don't have anything else to say.
Right.
That's one. And two, again, since I was on the bus with my people,
Yeah.
That kind of lets you know too exactly the mindset that he has.
Yeah.
No one says his people or these people or you people. And again, if you're intelligent enough, as a sheriff, there are certain things that you aren't supposed to say or you shouldn't say.
Yeah.
So, and again, like I said earlier, since they were my people, then you should have got out of the car and came to me and asked me what was going on. And I would have told you
right.
what was going on.
Instead of
So
just
either they're my people or they're not. Make up your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it was very telling to hear him, talk, about me, and he's so concerned that I have police powers. And I asked the question: are you concerned that I have police powers so that you can't do anything to me?
Right.
Or are you, what's the deal? Because you can map quests all you want to. Don't come to my house.
Right. Don't come here. Yeah. Right.
He don't want this. He don't want this smoke. He better make sure that juice is worth the squeeze. So.
I hear you, brother. I hear
you. And then, he, I think in one of the conversations, he had alluded to the fact that he, was calling me a racist.
Yes. Right.
And, I'm like, well, my wife is smoking hot and she's white.
Right.
So, you can get over that. You'll be fine.
Right.
But it's just very interesting. Even growing up and being around my grandfather and hearing people, as a kid and how he took care of it and how he handled it, has always been a template on how I carried myself.
Sure.
I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would actually be a part of someone who had a racist mindset or bigoted mindset and was just outwardly didn't care.
Yeah. It's really strange. I have a friend, who Henry County is a weird place. I have a friend who just last year was driving from Anderson back through Middletown, and like from just past Middletown into Newcastle was like literally, and she's a black female. She was driving on a country road and she'd pulled up around a car. Looked like the car was like off to the road, like not like maybe had car trouble or something. I don't know what it is with vehicle trouble and racist situations in Henry County, but it looked like the car was off. And so she kind of just, gently passed it. And then the car blew up behind her and got real on her ass and then proceeded to chase her down, running stop signs and yelling the N-word at her, through Henry County. And this was like last year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, what goes on with this? This is nuts to me. And then it's like she hears something like this and she's like, where do you go? Do you go to the sheriff's department? Like when you're in trouble out in the world but you don't feel safe going to the sheriff's department, you're in a really kind of a world of hurt at that point, because I don't know if I was a person of color that I would feel comfortable going to the sheriff's department. And now I want to say this. I do believe there are a lot of fine men and women that work in the jail and on the road in Henry County. and I believe that there's a lot of them that are great people. I think that they're in a really bad situation right now because their leadership is lacking, and I hate that for them. But just because the sheriff might be this way doesn't mean everyone else is. But
Right.
the problem is you get all these new people coming on because they are a very new department. And if he's their leadership, that's a real concerning thing. So this is not, I mean, he's obviously reading this from an outside source. It looks to me like he was trying to cost you your job.
Right.
No other way around this. And then when your chief stood up for you finally, as your chief should have done, and I commend Brian for that, then the sheriff now the sheriff doesn't only have a problem with you, but he's got a problem with you and, Chief Pryor. So now there's two people he has a problem with. Well, I've talked about this, so he's got a problem with you and Chief Pryor and me. So now there's problems with all of us. He's got a problem with Roger Winston, and hell, he didn't have anything to do with anything. He's just the person that broke down, and he seems to have a problem with Roger. So it's weird that this kind of web is growing. Has this, other than just been weird, is this causing you any issues, or everything else is good? You're still employed there, and you don't foresee this causing you any problems, right?
No, I don't. Like I said, I held back because I didn't want to disgrace Shirley PD, and I didn't want to disgrace my chief. My department and the council have been extremely supportive. They call and check on me, or they text me to see how I'm doing, especially as things have started to, to come out. And now that everyone knows who Officer Humphries, what I look like,
right?
And you just can't find that everywhere, where your management and the people over you are invested in you, and they want to make sure that you're doing okay.
Yes.
And I appreciate that. And I told them I hadn't planned on going anywhere, but I really am not going anywhere now. Even when I retire from the state, I'll still be,
I love it,
a reserve officer, and to serve, the people that are in the community. And that's why I went with Shirley. I didn't want to be in a big metropolis. I didn't want to be in a big department. I've done my running and gunning.
Yeah.
I get tired thinking about running. So I'm not trying to be somewhere. And I like, when I was in Pickerington in the wintertime, if people were shoveling snow, and because Pickerington's sort of like Carmel, they have big houses, big driveways. And if I knew that there was a veteran who was out of, TDY, and it's just his wife or an elderly couple or kids, I would put my shovel in the trunk, and I'd get out on Sunday mornings and help shovel the snow. That's the kind of stuff that I really love doing, because being a police officer, our job is to protect and to serve.
Yes.
And serve is a myriad of so many different things. Helping somebody catch their dog, looking for their kids, helping someone find their medication if they misplaced it. The old school, helping somebody across the street. I mean, to be in the small town of Shirley, to be able to have the time to help people in some of the smallest things that to them is something big, you just can't beat that. And I don't let anybody, taint that for me. You've got, young officers, and you've got your sheriff officers. They want to make a name for themselves. And the older officers need to be around so that they can explain to them, you can make a name for yourself just by being kind.
Yes, sir.
You're going to get your running and gunning. It's going to happen. You can't get away from it. But you get more out of making someone's day, making an elderly person feel good about, if they fell and you go by and help pick them up. If, like I said, if they can't, can't remember if they took their medication, you go by there and you figure it out with them. That's the kind of stuff that we're supposed to do, especially in a smaller town.
Absolutely.
And when people are in trouble, there's times where they've been broke down and you find out that they're suspended and you got to deal with it. But then there's other times, once you find out everything's on fire, you need to help people.
Right.
And that's the mode and the mindset that I was in with Roger the moment I met them and I ran in, to them, because I've been around long enough to know if you're full of crap in about 20 seconds. In the way that, they dealt with me. Typically, if, you're doing something wrong, the last thing they want to do is talk to law enforcement. They would have shooed me away when I helped them with the battery. They would have, nope, we got it. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that is very telling. That is very interesting that you mentioned that, because that is exactly how that would have been. I don't want to keep you on here too long. It is a holiday weekend, and I appreciate the time. We do have a couple questions, if you wouldn't mind.
Go for it.
Let me see here. So, I think we've answered some of the ones that we had. Kate, are you seeing anything?
There's a couple of questions that hadn't been covered yet that are still in the start section. I'll go ahead and put them up and let you address them.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. So I don't think you've been working that, but and to my knowledge, there's no investigation, there's no paperwork or crime been reported, so we don't know. It's just gone.
It's just gone.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting. And then the other one is, and this is something that you might look into, and I don't know if you've heard this or not, but so there are some folks on the sheriff's department who was there's a concern that there might be people on the sheriff's department, including possibly the sheriff. The concern is there that are looking up in whatever he's doing with you, this because he started to make a mention on a phone call, and he stops himself. He says, and to me it sounds like he says, we're going to run this investigation, is what I think it sounds like. He's going to say, but he stops himself when he's talking to the town board member, and he's like, I'm not asking you guys for anything. You guys do what you're gonna do, but I'm just gonna let you know, we're gonna run this, and then he stops, and it might just be something that I'm kind of piecing together, but I just got the feeling that he was kind of tipping his hand that he's running some kind of investigation. I'll tell you, I went to a small town board meeting in Caddis in Henry County, and the meeting was an illegal meeting. It had not been properly notified. It wasn't an executive meeting for the purpose that it needed to be. And because I was there, and I specifically wasn't causing a scene, I wasn't being rude, but he was attempting to file disorderly conduct charges on me. And when the prosecutor's office declined to file charges, I had heard, and I'll be honest, I worked both in law enforcement on a police department, and I worked as an investigator in the prosecutor's office. I've never heard about this. I've never heard of this anywhere else. But he literally was trying to, quote unquote, prosecutor shop. He couldn't get his elected prosecutor to do it. So he was attempting to find other prosecutors within the state to file these charges on me. And I don't know how they would have done that. I've never really truthfully found out what exactly he was trying to do with that. But, so I wouldn't put it past him to be running your information, either running a background check or whatnot, which would be illegal, would be a Fourth Amendment rights violation. So just FYI, if you might be interested in looking into that, or having a lawyer look into that, if that's something that you're interested in doing. And you don't have to answer this on air. I just want to let you know, and I will send you the name off once we're off of this, but there is a specific lawyer that I've spoke to, Mr. Mark Nicholson, who has stated that he would love to speak with you And again, like I said, I'm not saying you don't have to say, yes or no, or whether you got a lawyer or not. That can be a surprise for whoever down the road. But just FYI, if you don't or whatever, I know that there was a specific officer, an attorney that said he would be interested in talking to you because he was very concerned with what he has heard in the emails and in these phone calls, the fact that he believes that you have been wronged. So just FYI of that. But just kind of in wrapping up, is there anything that we haven't covered that you would like to cover, or is there anything that you haven't said that you would like to get out for the people to know, or maybe the other deputies on the sheriff's department, or maybe even Sproles if he's watching?
I think the main thing is that the people need to understand who is in charge of their law enforcement and the mindset and the what he won't stop at just to be right. I fear that someone's going to get hurt. I fear that someone could, lose their life because the type of mindset that this individual has is a dictator, tyrant type of mindset. And there's no room in law enforcement for that. There's no room whatsoever for that. I hope that the people that are, serving under him, remain safe, because there's some people who, have worked long enough to say, hey, I've had enough and leave. But then you have some of the younger deputies. It's like, look, I need this job. And, they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. And if any of those are listening, what I'd say is, wear the badge. Don't let it wear you.
Yes.
You shouldn't have to lay up at night wondering if what you did that day was the right thing, or if you were wrong, or up at night because you did something wrong. No one is worth that. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you lose that badge and you can never get it back. I'd rather be fired or have to walk away and still keep my dignity, because sometimes as a police officer, that's all you have left is your honor and your dignity. And if you're willing to throw that away just for, whatever, you need to take the badge off.
Yeah.
The way things are now, people don't give two squats that you're law enforcement. They'll shoot you just as soon as they shoot their neighbor.
Sure.
And you don't want to put yourself and put your family through that. You don't want to leave your wife and leave your kids with no father or no mother. And wearing this badge, I've worn this badge for over 20 years in law enforcement, and there's nothing more meaningful in my life than to protect and serve. I really wasn't that great of a firefighter because I'm not running in a burning building, but when there's someone shooting, I won't even think twice. I will be the first one through that door, or I will take a bullet, because I feel like that's what God put me on this planet for.
Absolutely.
So, whenever you can find your purpose and get paid a little bit of money for it, I think you're doing pretty good. You're doing okay.
Yeah.
I want to take the time to thank, because I do. Someone asked if I still ride off duty. Yes, I do.
Yes.
And ride with the Punishers Law Enforcement Motorcycle Club. There's 7 chapters here in Indiana. I'm the president of the Archangel chapter. We have several chapters in every state, and we're in 16 countries. I think now we are the largest traditional motorcycle club in the world. And there's first responders, so it's fire, police, medics, and military, and then we have a certain percentage of like-minded. And I want to thank them because I was able to raise over $400 on the spot to try to help Roger for the towing of their bus.
Oh, wow.
And to repair their bus. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, I don't really have a lot of money in my account. I'm trying to go on the vacation. There's only so much. And it just hit me. It's like, man. So I went on GroupMe and I said, brothers, this is my situation. They didn't know, and nor did they care what color the kids were, where they were from. They're like, cowboy, it's on the way. And they were either PayPal or Cash App, and it was over $400 that they sent in about 15, 20 minutes so that they could get the bus towed, because it wasn't cheap, and get the bus fixed. So I really want to thank them. And then it's down at the bottom. We have the 31st chapter, and that's any Punisher that passes away. We put them in the 31st chapter, and we raise that money. We do donations and we do fundraisers, and we raise money to take care of the people that are left behind. So their wives and kids, if they didn't have insurance or have anything to take care of the funeral expenses. That's the 31st chapter. And I want to thank every brother in the state of Indiana for donating, for me, to help out Roger, because Roger is amazing dude. We got to know each other standing out there all day long in the rain. And he's a good man. I love what he does. Yeah. And I'm so sorry that he had to deal with and put up with what he had to deal with, trying to, make dreams come true. And it just, it hurt me to my core. Sure. And I'm sitting here like, man, I'm wearing this uniform, and, there's always someone that's, once we get ahead and do well, there's always someone that's going to knock us down and just put us back in the dirt again. And they didn't have to be that way. That's what happens when you get to the point where you think you're just too good for everybody that's around you. And you've got a lot of deputies that work in that jail that could run circles around him. Oh, yeah. And that's what happens when you have somebody who has no experience, who's all of a sudden put in charge. Yeah. It never comes out, because you don't have a clue of what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. You haven't been there long enough. Right. You don't know how to deal with people. You don't know how to work with people. You can set your whole tone just how you talk to someone. If you respect people, most of the time you're going to get the respect in return. Yep. I work at the prison. They let us work overtime. I've never worked in a jail or prison until when I started working with the state. And I've worked at Pendleton and CIF, which is right next to them. And people that are in SEG, they can go from cussing you out and going off, and you come to their door and you be like, hey, what's going on? What can I do for you? You don't have to agree with what they did, but they are still human beings. And you're outnumbered. You go home because they allow you to go home. Yeah. You didn't go home because you're this big, strong person. They allow you to go home. And if you think about that and keep that in mind, because some of those people are eventually going to get out, and they're going to run into you when you're with your family. They may not do anything then because they probably know that you're caring, but they can always do something to your family when they're out alone. Absolutely. And you got to think about that kind of stuff, because karma comes back to you. And, there's been times where when I was in Ohio, the people that I've arrested, when things went crazy, they were there and they watched my back, because, my reputation here in Ohio, Agent Humphries, he is cool. He is fair. He'll do whatever he can to get you where you need to be, but he will do his job. But I don't have to be a jerk to do my job. I can do my job and say, sir and ma'am, and put handcuffs on people. And I rarely do I have anybody fight me, because I treat them with respect. They understand what's going on. I don't BS them. I don't lie to them. And I don't try to treat them that they're less than me. Sure. And the moment you learn that, your life will be a lot better in this field.
Absolutely true. It's interesting here. And I just want to say, there's not enough can be said about you and your, the fellow, people in the club that helped, the motorcycle club that helped raise that money. It's just, that is what serving and protecting and serving is all about. I mean, that's what it means to be a public servant. What you did there, and a commenter said, we just went through this the other day, that to run the race for sheriff, John Sproles donated $70,000 of his own money to his campaign, and he raised another $30,000 to to make the grand total like $120,000 to run for sheriff in small little dinky Henry County. Just absolutely insane. But he didn't think to donate any money to these individuals, or to ask anyone else in his community or anyone in his circle or his church community to raise any money. And I just, maybe some people just aren't built like that. I think what you did was amazing. Hats off to everyone that donated to them. And you guys are true class act. I think that you are definitely one of a kind. It's very cool. I'm glad that I have had a chance to talk with you and interact with you. I very much enjoyed talking with Mr. Winston. And I definitely want to stay in contact with you and kind of find out where this goes and
absolutely,
and, find out what happens from here. Real quick, there was just one other question, and it's kind of a weird situation since he's the leader of a department, but obviously I'm assuming your thought on body cameras is everyone should have body cameras, I would assume, right?
Everybody should have a body camera. It will get your backside out of trouble in a heartbeat, because people will say and do anything to get out of what they're in. And if they know there's no body camera, it's your word against theirs.
Absolutely.
It can, sometimes get you in trouble. You got to watch what you say. You can't just say crazy stuff anymore. But I know the state is talking about getting them for the agents, and I can't wait. When I was on the motorcycle, I had a digital recorder. Voice activated digital recorder, and it got me out of a lot of issues because I had proof, because people would say, well, he was inappropriate, and they listened to it and be like, I didn't hear it. He would call them in, and they would listen to it together and goes, at what point did he say this again? We could go back and try it again if you like. I think that cams are the best. It's like what they say, the best thing since sliced bread, because it will weed out the people who have and had no business in wearing a badge and carrying a gun. And it will also show the hard work and the dangerous life that we lead when we're out there on the street.
Absolutely.
So, and I want to make sure that I let everybody know I appreciate you to having the backbone to bring this to light. Not a lot of people do that because they're worried about the politics of it, or worried about what's going to happen. And someone's got to do it.
Absolutely.
I'll definitely keep in touch and let you know every step of the way what's going on.
All right, brother. I appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been our talk with Officer Roger Humphries of the Shirley, Indiana Police Department. I want to thank you for coming on and speaking with us, and we'll definitely stay in contact with you.
Thanks for having me. You all have a wonderful, safe weekend.
Yes, you too. Happy Labor Day weekend, and stay safe out there.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Officer Humphries, and I just want to again say that it was amazing having him on. I think that he is a hell of an officer, and we basically he answered everything I wanted to know, and I kind of hated putting him in a couple positions there. Because I didn't want him to say anything that maybe he was uncomfortable with, but that he's as true as it gets right there. That was awesome. If you came in late to this, please go back and watch from the very beginning. I definitely will, Mary. I will do that as soon as I get off here. If you have not watched the other videos, please go and watch those. You can find them on the Political Spotlight on our YouTube page. I have created a Sproles playlist for everything that's Sproles related there. You can go and click on that and find the bus body camera footage. You can find my commentary on the bus body camera. You can find my interview with the other Roger, with Roger Winston, the CEO of the dance company, the dance crew. Please check that out. And he's been with us in the audience. I'm so thankful that he was here and able to talk. And I'm glad that they have developed a friendship. So that's very awesome and whatnot. So thank you guys all very, 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 very much for watching. I will be back tomorrow. I do want to say you guys need to definitely tune in tomorrow. We've got a big show to talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about the video that Civic Duty put out today. It was the surveillance video of Mayor Bob McCoy from Winchester talking to Lewis Galligan. It's an explosive video, so definitely tune in for that. I'm also going to be talking about some fallout of the economic development decision of the mayor of Muncie to spend $45,000 for Don McLean to sing Bye Bye American Pie to Muncie last night. We're going to hear about what that economic money did not go to do. It didn't go to fund some businesses in Muncie, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. So we're going to be talking about all of that. And then Wednesday, we're going to have, let's see, tomorrow is Monday. Tomorrow's Labor Day. Yeah, we'll be here. We'll be slaving away on Labor Day. It don't matter. We work through the holiday. On Tuesday, I don't know what we're going to be talking about just yet, but it'll be big. On Wednesday, we'll have Ashley Grogg on from Hoosiers for Medical Liberty, and you will not want to miss that. Ashley Grogg is really smart. She's on her game, and that's going to be another amazing interview. So please watch out for that. And the only other thing I have to say is yes, I do want to answer that question. Where is it? I don't see it. Constitutional protected. I am aware that the gentleman that Sproles pulled over illegally when he made the traffic stop in the unmarked car and plain clothes was a person of color. I am aware of that. So we are in the process of looking into that as well. I am in the process of getting the record request for the inmate Marquette Neal for any of his interactions with the jail as well. So I'll keep you guys posted on all of that. We've got a lot to cover still in Henry County. We've got a lot to cover going on in Winchester, a lot to cover in Muncie, and candidate interviews are starting to line up here. So I'll keep you guys posted. Remember, share the show, spread the word, and help get the message out. We need you guys to like the show, share the show, subscribe to the podcast, the YouTube channel if you have not. And we will see you back here tomorrow. Tonight's postscript, ladies and gentlemen, is there's no sense in being a racist asshole if you want to live a nice and happy life in the world and you want to get along and just be normal. There's no reason to be a racist asshole. Even if you are the sheriff of Henry County, you can live life without being a racist asshole. All right. Good night. Have a great evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.